Right now, somebody watching this is standing over a sink full of gray water that will not go down. You bailed some out with a cup, you waited, you ran the disposal and prayed, and it is still sitting there staring back at you, and part of your brain has already started doing the math on a plumber showing up on a Saturday. Put the phone down. I mean it. 9 times out of 10, the thing stopping that water is soft. It is close, and it will come out in about a minute with a tool that costs less than the coffee you are holding. I have cleared thousands of these. Kitchen sink, bathroom sink, tub. Does not matter. Same handful of moves every time. But before you grab anything, you need to hear one sound. Because in about 1 out of 10 of these, that same minute of plunging is the worst thing you can do to your house. And there is a specific noise that tells you which one you are looking at. I will give it to you before we are done, and it will save some of you a very expensive weekend. Let me show you the fix first. So, what is actually down there? Let me tell you what a clog really is. Because once you see it, you will stop being afraid of it. Your drain is not one long straight tube. Right under the sink, there is a curved section of pipe shaped like the letter U. We call it the trap. That U holds a little pool of water on purpose. And that water is a plug that keeps sewer gas from floating up into your kitchen. Good design. But that same curve is the low point. The speed bump, the spot where everything heavy slows down and settles. Grease, hair, soap, coffee grounds. That little bit of rice you swore you rinsed. It all piles up right there, in the first 2 or 3 feet of pipe. Think of it like plaque in an artery. It does not close the pipe all at once. It coats the walls, a little thicker every week, until the opening that used to be 2 inches across is down to the size of a pencil. Then one greasy dinner tips it over, and suddenly nothing moves. That is your clog. It is not some deep mystery halfway to the street. It is a soft plug sitting right where your arm can almost reach it. And that is the whole reason cheap works. You are not fighting the sewer. You are clearing a spot you could practically touch. So let's clear it. There are really only 3 kinds of clog you will meet in a house, and each one has its own $2 answer. Let's take them in order. The first one is hair, and this is the bathroom. Bathroom sink, tub, shower. Hair goes down. It wraps around the crossbars in the drain, and around anything sticking up in the pipe. It grabs soap scum, and it builds a wet gray rope that plugs the whole thing. If you have long hair in the house, this is your clog. Every time. Here is what most people do. They pour a bottle of chemical cleaner down there, wait, and get nothing. Because those chemicals are built to dissolve grease and gunk, and hair just sits there laughing. Wrong tool for the job. Here is what to do instead. You want a barbed plastic drain stick. The common one is called a zippet, and it is a flat plastic strip about 2 feet long covered in little backward-facing teeth like a tiny harpoon. It costs about $2 or $3. $2. You slide it straight down into the drain, past the stopper, as far as it goes, and then you slowly pull it back up. Those little barbs catch the hair rope on the way out and drag the whole disgusting mess up with it. Fair warning, what comes out is going to be genuinely revolting. A black, slimy, hairy thing that smells like a swamp. That is normal. That is the clog. Pull it out, throw it away, run the water, and 9 times out of 10, the sink is flowing again. 60 seconds, start to finish. Now, stack up what just happened. A $2 plastic stick against a plumber's drain call, which runs about $150 to $300 in most of the country, with the national average sitting right around $220 for a hair clog and a bathroom sink. That is the whole visit. You just did it for the price of a candy bar, and you can rinse the stick off and use it again next month. The second kind of clog is the one with standing water, and this is where the plunger comes in. This is your kitchen sink full of that gray water, or a bathroom sink that will not drain at all. And I promise you, most people plunge wrong. They grab it, they give it one big hero shove, water sprays everywhere, and they give up. That is not how it works. A plunger does not push the clog out. It works on pressure and suction, a shove and a pull, and to make that pressure do anything, you have to seal the system so the force goes at the clog instead of leaking out the sides. Let me walk you through it, because the details are the whole game. First, water. You want a couple of inches of standing water in the basin. People think they should bail it all out. Wrong. That water is what lets the plunger grip and carry the force down the pipe. Air just squishes, water shoves. Second, and this is the step almost everybody skips, you have to block the other opening. Look at your sink. A bathroom sink has a little hole up near the top rim. That is the overflow, and it is a second doorway into the same pipe. A kitchen sink usually has two basins side by side, joined underneath. If you leave that overflow hole or that second basin wide open, every time you plunge, the pressure just blows out the easy exit and does nothing to the clog. So you take a wet rag and you jam it into that overflow hole, or you have somebody hold a stopper down hard over the second drain. Now the system is sealed. Third, technique. You set the cup down over the drain, flat, and you press once slowly to push the air out from under it and get a good seal. Then you plunge. Firm, steady, straight up and down strokes. Not one giant shove. A run of them, maybe 15 or 20 seconds of steady pumping. And on the last one, you pull the plunger straight up and off to break the seal with a pop. That pop is the suction yanking back on the clog. Half the time, that final pull is what actually rips it loose. Do that, watch the water, and when it suddenly drops and you hear that gurgle, you won. A plunger you probably already own. If you do not, a good flat cup one is a few dollars against a service call that costs 100 times that. While you have got a minute here, let me hand you something that goes deeper than any one clog. I wrote a book called 100 Old House Fixes That Save You Thousands. It is plain talk, no filler, built for exactly the kind of house that fights you on stuff like this. A big part of it is knowing when a cheap patch, like the one you just learned, is the real fix, and when it is only buying you a week before the problem comes back bigger. It will also keep you from paying for service calls you never needed in the first place. The link is down in the description, and there is a code on the screen you can scan too. Take a look when we are done. All right? Back to it. And this next one is the enemy behind more kitchen clogs than anything else. Grease, fats, oils, the drippings off a pan, the film off greasy dishes. It goes down warm and liquid, so it looks harmless. But warm is the trick. Once it hits the cooler pipe down the line, it does exactly what candle wax does when it drips onto a holder. It sets. It hardens right onto the pipe wall, and then it grabs every bit of food and coffee ground that floats by and it builds that artery plaque I told you about faster than anything else in your house. So here's the grease fix, and it is nearly free. A good squirt of regular dish soap straight down the drain. The same stuff that cuts grease off your plate, cuts grease off the inside of your pipe. Then you run hot tap water behind it for a solid 2 or 3 minutes. The soap breaks the grease up, the hot water carries it out, and a soft grease clog near the top will often just let go and flush. Now listen close, because this is where I have to stop you from doing something that sounds smart and wrecks pipes. Hot tap water, not boiling water. Do not go grab the kettle. Here is why. Most homes, and just about every home built since the 80s, have plastic drain pipe under the sink. We call it PVC. That pipe is rated to handle water up to about 140 degrees. Boiling water off your stove is 212 degrees. That is way past what the plastic can take. And if you pour it down a drain that is already clogged, the boiling water just sits there against the pipe instead of flushing through. The plastic softens. The glued joints, the connections that are literally held together with a special cement, start to let go. The seals in that U-shaped trap warp. And now you have turned a soft grease clog into a leak inside your cabinet, which is a real repair. And if your sink or your toilet is porcelain, that shot of boiling water can crack it outright, just from the sudden temperature jump. Cold material, screaming hot water, and it splits. So skip the drama. Hot tap water is plenty hot to move grease and completely safe for your pipes. Boiling water is a gamble that only pays out for the plumber. So that is the 3. Barb stick for hair, plunger for standing water, soap and hot tap water for grease. That covers the big majority of what stops a household drain. But let me give you the part. The trade will never put in a commercial, because it is the part that actually keeps money in your pocket. None of these clogs have to happen. Here's the honest reason nobody tells you that. There is no money in prevention. A plumber does not get a call when your drain is running fine. He gets the call at the emergency on the weekend, when you are panicked, and you will pay anything. That is not a conspiracy. It is just how the business breathes. Nobody is going to knock on your door to sell you a 30-cent habit. So I will. Habit 1. Put a strainer, a little basket screen, over every drain in the house. A couple of dollars each. It catches hair and food before they ever get in the pipe, and you just empty it in the trash. That one move stops most bathroom clogs before they start. Habit 2. Once a week, that same soap and hot tap water flush I just showed you, done on purpose, before there is a problem. 30 seconds. It keeps grease from ever getting a grip on the walls. Habit 3. Once a month, pour an enzyme drain cleaner down the kitchen sink. Now, that is a different animal than the caustic stuff, and I want you to hear the difference. An enzyme cleaner is a bottle of harmless bacteria that slowly eat the organic gunk. No fumes, no danger, safe for old pipes. You pour it before bed and let it work overnight. It runs you maybe $10 or $15 a bottle and lasts months. That is your cheap insurance against ever standing over a full sink again. You do those 3, and honestly, you may never need the tools at all, which is exactly why nobody advertises them. Now, let me hit a few specific situations fast, because I know somebody out there has one of these right now. The double kitchen sink, where one side backs up into the other. That means the clog is past the point where the two basins join. So plunging one side just pushes water into the other. The fix is the sealing trick from before. Block the second drain hard, wet rag or stopper held down. Then plunge the clog side. Now the pressure has nowhere to go but at the clog. The slow tub that is all hair. Do not reach for the plunger first. Reach for that $2 barbed stick, run it down past the stopper, and pull the rope out. Tub clogs are almost always hair, and hair is a pulling job, not a pushing job. The garbage disposal that just hums and will not spin, that hum is the motor straining against something jammed in the grinding plate, and if you leave the switch on, you cook the motor. So turn it off at the wall first. Then look under the disposal for a little six-sided hole in the very bottom. There's usually a small hex wrench, a bent metal key, taped right to the unit or sitting in the drawer under the sink. You fit that wrench into the hole and crank it back and forth by hand. What you are doing is turning the jammed plate from below and breaking whatever bone or pit or twist tie is wedged in there loose. Then hit the little red reset button on the bottom of the unit, run cold water, and flip it back on. A jammed disposal sends people running for a plumber constantly, and 9 times out of 10 it is that wrench and that reset button. Costs you nothing. The one that has beaten your plunger and your stick, but is still close. There's a tool called a drain bladder. It is a rubber attachment you screw onto a garden hose, feed into the pipe, and turn the water on. It swells up to seal the pipe, then blasts water at the clog. Runs about $10 or $15. It is the step between the plunger and calling anybody, and it clears a lot of stubborn ones. And here is the hard line I need you to hold, no matter how frustrated you get. Do not pour a caustic chemical drain cleaner down there and then start plunging. That is how people end up at the sink with chemical burns. When you plunge on top of that stuff, you can splash it right back up into your own face and eyes, and it is the kind of chemical that does permanent damage in seconds. On top of that, it eats older metal and cast iron pipe from the inside. Those cleaners are the one thing in this whole video I want you to just leave on the shelf. The tools do the job without ever putting you in danger. Okay? I promised you a sound, and here it is. Because this is the line between a $2 fix and a real bill. Everything I have shown you works on one drain, a fixture clog. The clog sitting close, in that first stretch of pipe under a single sink or tub. But sometimes the problem is not in the fixture at all. It is in the main line, the big pipe that carries everything out of your house toward the sewer. And when that one clogs, no 60-second trick on earth will touch it. So how do you know the difference before you waste an afternoon? You listen and you watch, for one thing. More than one drain acting up at the same time. You run the kitchen sink and the toilet gurgles. You flush and water burps up into the tub. The lowest drain in the house, a tub or a basement floor drain, starts bubbling or backing up when you use something else entirely. That gurgle, that burp, water showing up in a fixture you never touched, that is the tell. That is the main line talking, and it is telling you the blockage is downstream of everything, past the reach of any tool in this video. When you hear that, stop. Put the plunger down. That is not a $2 job, and forcing it just makes a mess. That is a hand auger fed a long way down, a tool that runs $15 to $25 if you want to try the clean out yourself. Or it is a call to a pro with a powered rooter or a hydrojet, which is high-pressure water on a machine. Yes, that call costs real money, $300 to $600 and up. But knowing that you are in mainline territory and not throwing 40 minutes and a bottle of chemicals at a clog that was never going to move is exactly how you spend that money once instead of twice. That is the whole game. Know which clog you are looking at, and you know whether it is a $2 fix or a phone call. Almost always, it is the $2 fix. Before you go, let me point you at one more thing. That book I mentioned, 100 Old House Fixes That Save You Thousands, is where I put all of this in one place, not just drains. It is the small leaks you want to catch early, the ones that quietly rot out a floor or a ceiling or the cabinet under the sink before you ever see a drop. And it is the smarter questions to ask a contractor so nobody talks you into work you do not need. Link is in the description. Code is on your screen. And if this saved you a service call today, subscribe to Roger the Pipe Guy, because that is the whole point of this channel. More old house fixes that keep your money where it belongs, in your pocket. I will see you at the next one.